Welcome back to the Verdict Zone. Today, a man faces the ultimate betrayal, leading to a shocking medical emergency that finally forces him to confront the emotional abuse that had defined his marriage for years. This is a story about a confession, a crisis, and the moment a mind finally snaps into focus. It all started at a karaoke bar. It was supposed to be a fun night out with friends, but it ended with my wife coming to me in tears. Through her sobs, she confessed something unthinkable. She had just tried to initiate an affair with someone, and they had rejected her. Now she was seeking comfort and sympathy from me, the person she had just betrayed. I looked at her, and the words came out before I could even think. "That's unforgivable," I told her. The air turned to ice. I said a quick goodbye to our stunned friends, and we began the longest, most silent car ride of my life. Every second was charged with a mixture of shock, anger, and a deep, hollowing sadness. When we got home, I couldn't even look at her. I just said, "We'll talk in the morning. You're sleeping on the sofa." I needed space to process the implosion of my world. As I lay in bed alone, my mind was a hurricane. I was replaying the moment of her confession, trying to make sense of it. The end of my marriage felt like a certainty. But as I thought about the years leading up to this, I realized it wasn't just this one act. It was 4 years of feeling invisible, of emotional neglect, of being taken for granted. And then, another more urgent thought cut through the chaos. Remembered how much she had been drinking at the bar, and then I remembered something else. Earlier in the evening, she'd mentioned taking an old prescription sleep aid she'd found, and my blood ran cold. I knew combining that much alcohol with a sedative was incredibly dangerous. I sat bolt upright in bed, my heart pounding. I rushed to the living room, calling her name. She was on the sofa, breathing, but she was completely unresponsive. I shook her, shouted her name, but it was like she wasn't there. Panic set in. She was alive, but I couldn't wake her up. My hands were shaking as I dialed for an ambulance. I told the operator what happened, that she was unconscious and had mixed alcohol with sleeping pills. The response was almost instantaneous. Within minutes, my quiet suburban home was swarming with flashing lights. Firefighters and paramedics filled my living room, a blur of calm, professional action. They immediately started checking her vitals, hooking her up to monitors, and preparing her for transport. One of the first responders looked at me, his expression grim. He told me in no uncertain terms how lucky she was, that mixing those substances could easily have stopped her breathing altogether. It was a stark, terrifying warning. This crisis didn't just reveal her betrayal, revealed a frightening lack of judgment, a carelessness with her own life that was shocking. It was only later, after the chaos subsided, that I learned the sleep aid wasn't even hers. It was an old prescription that had belonged to her ex-partner. After they had loaded her into the ambulance and it sped away, 2 police officers remained behind. They needed to question me and perform a routine examination of the house. "It's standard procedure," they explained, "in any domestic medical emergency like this. They have to rule out any possibility of a struggle or foul play." It was an invasive and deeply uncomfortable experience. Having my home and my character scrutinized in the middle of this personal nightmare, but the officer was professional and respectful, simply doing his job. I understood, but it added another layer of surreal horror to the night. Once they were finished, I got in my car and followed the ambulance to the hospital. My mind was a war zone of conflicting emotions. I hated her for what she'd done, for the betrayal that had shattered my trust. But at the same time, a fundamental part of me just wanted her to be okay, to survive this self-inflicted crisis. Sitting in the stark, sterile waiting room of the emergency department, something strange happened. The noise in my head, the storm of anger and confusion, finally began to quiet down. The shock of her near-death experience acted like an anchor, pulling all the swirling emotions down into a single, solid point of clarity. It was like I had been holding my breath underwater for 4 years, and I had just broken the surface, gasping for air. For the first time, I saw the truth of my marriage with complete, painful clarity. The constant stress, the walking on eggshells, the feeling of being emotionally starved, wasn't normal. It was abuse. Her betrayal wasn't an isolated incident. It was the final, explosive symptom of a long-term sickness in our relationship. The crisis hadn't broken our marriage. It only revealed that it was already dead. In that hospital waiting room, I wasn't just waiting for news about her survival. I was mourning a marriage that had ended long before that night. The protagonist saved her life, but the marriage was already dead. Should he proceed with divorce immediately, or was he obligated to support her through recovery? The moral verdict is yours. The verdict zone is open. Hit that subscribe button and click the link in the description to join the discussion in our forum. Want to know what you think? The moral verdict is yours.